Great morning.
Morning.
It's better than just good. It's a great morning.
Great morning. After last night?
Especially after last night. One point of privilege. Before I get started, I wanted to take a moment and recognize the chairman of the Alabama Democratic Party, which is Dr. Randy Kelly. Please stand, Dr. Kelly. Past vice chair of this caucus, Dr. Randy Kelly. Now, I also want to take a moment and introduce the legendary Dr. Joel Reed. Back in the day when there was super duper delegates, that's the man. Revolutionized the state of Alabama. And Dr. Reed, I want to let you know how much I appreciate you. When you attended convention since 1968, the year that I was born. And I appreciate you, Dr. Reed. That's right.
Ask him, did he come to the convention?
Yeah, he was there. Men, it's about us today. But James Brown said we'd be nothing without a woman. So I'm going to start this morning very simply with the great Langston Hughes, 1922. He had a message for us that he spoke about his mother and her perseverance. And I thought that it was a timely or timeless message that we all need to hear. And before we get started, I think this is what we're going to start with. Well, sons, life for me ain't been no crystal stair. It had tacks in it and splinters and boards torn up and places with no carpet on the floor, bare. But all the time I's been climbing and reaching landings and turning corners and sometimes going in the dark where there ain't been no light. So boys, don't you turn back. Don't you sit down on the steps 'cause you find it kind of hard. Don't you fall now. For I's still going, honey. I's still climbing. And life for me ain't been no crystal stair. Thank you. All right. This is the day that the Lord has made, so let us rejoice and be glad in it. Is it indeed an honor as well as a privilege to stand before you today and extend my greetings on behalf of the great state of Alabama. Now, on to the business at hand. I tried to cut this introduction down to about an hour. That was down from a month, so we're going to see if we can get it to about 45 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, I am delighted to present to some and introduce to others someone I think you should know. She is the undisputed conscience of the Democratic National Committee and the forever fearless, fundamentally free, and the First Lady of the Democratic Black Caucus. She stands as a true testament of the tenacious talents of black women in power, from the schoolhouse to the state house, to the courthouse, and even to the White House. One of those ones who believe in making a way out of no way. She stands among the giants in our modern day history, demanding a seat at the table, in the tenor and the tone of those who can no longer speak for themselves, be it Tamir Rice, Sandra Bland, Breonna Taylor, or Sonia Massey. And in the same spirit of the late, great Sheila Jackson Lee, she has dedicated her life to serving the least of these in a time wherein compassion and compromise has taken a back seat to weird and worldly wickedness. But she understands the assignment, and she's mastered the art of being universal in her appeal, reasonable in her approach, far-reaching in her vision, practical in her application, and new and modern in her state's womanship. She's just one of those ones who believe that if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And when this nation kneeled on the brink of disaster and turned its back on our democracy and a woman's right to choose, our First Lady didn't just simply sit on the sidelines, but she crisscrossed the country and galvanized black leaders and educated voters. And when the dust was settled and the midterms were called, she won. Black women won. White women won. The Native Americans won. The United States Congress won. And thanks to Miss Virgie, we all won. She's a native of the great state of Michigan. Our First Lady is a world traveler and a Harlem Globetrotter, having led double diplomatic delegations to Taiwan, representing 2 American presidents, Bill Clinton and our dear brother Barack Hussein Obama. She has pre-clearance, yes, to fly aboard Air Force One, and she's been inside the White House more times than the Secret Service and the cleaning ladies. And did I fail to mention that it is a common commotion in her community to find presidents and presidential hopefuls congregating in her living room, not at the White House, but in her house. She's simply one of those ones, and someone I think you should know. She's listed among the greats on the roster of who's who, not just in America, but worldwide. She's the first African-American woman to serve as chairlady of the Michigan Democratic Women's Caucus, and she also received the Dr. M.L.K. Jr. Lifetime Achievement Award, the best in business, the brightest in business, and to further extend her legacy of leadership, on any given day, our children, grandchildren, and children, and grandchildren, and children to come can visit the Library of Congress and find her literary writings recorded in the annals of history as a national treasure for the ages. And yet, at the end of the day, her personal claim to fame is nothing greater than her fervent faith in God, 2 supportive sons, and 1 heroic husband. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my esteemed honor and my black job today. My black job. I's got a job. To present to you the one and only, the Renaissance woman, the real deal, the unbought and unbossed, the incomparable vintage chairlady of the Democratic National Committee's Black Caucus, the Honorable Virgie M. Rollins. Thank you. Miss Virgie. Miss Virgie. Miss Virgie. Thank you.
Oh my God. Thank you so much, Mr. Vice Chair. I always think, you know what I say about him. I think he's just a real frustrated preacher. What you guys think, okay? Don't you think that? Thank you, guys. Welcome to our second, third, fourth event of the Black Caucus. Are we doing it, Black Caucus people? Oh my God, have we had, the DSC Black Caucus have been on this week, I tell you. Before I get into it, I'm gonna ask our Dr. Allison Stevens, our secretary from Nevada, if she come and do an opening prayer. I almost call Reverend Randy Kelly up here because he was my former vice chair, but our secretary, we might do that at the end and let you do the benediction, Reverend Kelly, okay?
Thank you, Ms. Virgie. Heavenly Father, we come to you today with a spirit of thanksgiving. We thank you first, Lord, for our wonderful chairwoman, Ms. Virgie, who you gave the wisdom, foresight, and intellect to know that we as a group needed to start off this week with a word from you in a worship service, that you could give us the spiritual food that we needed to make it through, and also open our minds for the information that she would provide throughout the week. Lord, we also thank you for this wonderful gift that you had given us, the gift of blackness. For we know that when you made humanity in your image, it was in the cradle of our motherland, and that we reflect God in this world. We thank you for that gift, and we thank you for the reminder that we have heard throughout this week that faith without works is dead. But Lord, we know that you understand in our humanity, it is hard sometimes to work without hope. And so we thank you, Lord, for rising up and raising and bringing a queen in Kamala Harris to give us hope so that we can make it through this time, so that we do not have to wander around from this 11-day trip into a 40-year journey. And Lord Jesus, we thank you for your anointing. And so today, as your child, Allison, I come to you at your feet begging for your anointing on our heads and our hearts and our minds, so that we can continue to move forward and push forward. And Lord, I pray for your anointing on our tongues, because we know that the power of life and death lies there, Lord. And especially in this moment, we need to know what to say and who to say it to be able to make it through, because there's so many lies. And it is true in this moment especially that it is the life and death of your people that is being decided with this election, Lord. And I also want to pray for the anointing of our hands and our feet to go out and do the work. Let us take that hope. But Lord, in the end, as I close, I pray that you will keep us. Because as much as we reflect you in this world, we know that Satan is reflected through the face and the voice of Trump and all of his followers and his worshipers, and that they will deny and negate the victory that will be ours on Election Day. So we need you to keep us steadfast and strong so that we can remain open, that we can keep going, that we can keep fighting, that we can keep our ears open to a word from you, so we know what to do and when to do it. Because we will do our part, Lord. We will do the work. We will take the faith and the love that we have for each other and the hope that you have given us in this Black Queen, our Black hope that you have given us, so that she can take the predestined position that you have ordained her to as the President of the United States. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Powerful. Thank you, Allison, Dr. Stevens. Thank you so much. That was very powerful. I want to introduce my executive team, starting with Travis Nelson, State Representative Travis Nelson from Oregon, our Western Regional Director, who works very hard on the West Coast and have led a lot of our leadership team out there and organized. I didn't know we had a Black Caucus in Utah, but we do now. So we're doing the work. Our Midwest Regional Director, Mayor Mark Mallory from Cincinnati, Ohio. Stand up, Mark. You know, the Midwest is the key for us to get this done, and we're going to work him to death. In October, we're going to do a lot of work in the Midwest. Our Southern Regional Director is Committeewoman Grace Carrington from Florida. The hardest working sister down in the Southern region, so we got to make sure we get North Carolina this time. Our Eastern region, out in Philadelphia, we go in Pennsylvania, we got to get it. So stand up, the Honorable Donna Christian from the Virgin Islands, Congresswoman Donna Christian. And of course, our secretary, who I depend on a lot, Dr. Allison Stevens from Nevada, and the incomparable Charlie Sten from Alabama. So this is my executive team, and they work hard. My other team, oh my God, my chairman is here. Come on together. I'm going to introduce, did you see him last night? Yeah. And has he led this convention? Yep. And has he led the DNC? Yep. Oh my God, the hardest working chairman. That I always say I stand on the shoulders of our first African-American chair, Ron Brown, who was my mentor, and C. Dolores Tucker, who chaired the DNC Black Caucus. Yep. But now we got Chairman Jamie Harrison. Introduce.
Good morning, Black Caucus. Good morning, Black Caucus. Well, first and foremost, we need to give our flowers to our Madam Chair, Ms. Virgie Rollins, y'all. You know, she has put together an agenda this week. I know you had the worship service, Ms. Virgie. I know you had the gala. I know you've had your meetings, and I'm just telling you, we are so grateful and thankful for you and your leadership and all that you do Folks, when you need something done, Ms. Virgie is the first person you need to call because she knows how to get it done. So thank you, Ms. Virgie. Thank you. Thank you for all that you've done. And I want to thank all of the leadership of the Black Caucus. Thank you all for working so hard and so tirelessly. And I want to thank each and every one of you. Thank you, and I hope that you have been enjoying yourself at this 2024 Democratic National Convention. You can tell I've probably been enjoying myself too much because I don't have a voice now. And I got to save a little of it because I got to get back on the stage a little later on tonight. But, you know, I want to say two things, Ms. Virgie, really. I want to give Joe Biden his flowers. And on the other side of that coin, I want to talk about our MVP. So let me first start about giving Joe Biden his flowers. You know, I really do believe, my friends, and I want to thank you all for the celebration of our president on Monday. I mean, we knocked the roof off of the United Center. We told them that we loved him and that we supported him. And when I think about Joe Biden, I think this man will end up being one of the most transformational presidents and definitely the most transformational of my lifetime. Let's get the context of who this man is. Joe Biden was the able lieutenant to the first black person to be president of the United States. And he always had Barack Obama's back. Always supported him, never tried to undermine him. And fast forward, when he got the chance to have that baton, who did he choose to be his vice president? He chose a black woman to be his vice president. Could have chose anybody, but chose a black woman. And in that moment in which he said, you know what, I may be too tired, Ms. Virgie, to carry this baton over. And we got to win this race. We got to secure the freedoms and the rights of all Americans. In that moment in which he did that, there were some who were saying, let's do an open convention, let's do an open primary, let's do all this other stuff. But what did Joe Biden say? Because I have an able, capable, intelligent, I have an MVP on my team. And I'm going to give her the baton. And she's going to continue to run. And she's going to cross that finish line. She's going to lean into the tape in order to secure the freedoms and the rights of all Americans. This has been a president who said, I'm going to be the very first president to put a black woman on the United States Supreme Court. And he kept that promise. He nominated Ketanji Brown Jackson. And y'all remember those hearings? They called her everything but a child of God. But guess what they call her now? Madam Justice. This is a president who saw how we as a people suffered during COVID. Saw that black folks didn't get those early PPP loans, because sometimes people forget. Donald Trump was giving PPP loans to all his friends. He even gave loans to the Lakers. And y'all, I'm a Laker fan, but they ain't need that money. But those black barbershops and beauticians and all these small stores, they needed resources, and they couldn't get it because the banks wouldn't give it to them. And Joe Biden and Kamala Harris got into that White House working with the Democrats in the House and Senate and said, we're going to change how we do PPP. We're going to make sure that we're not just giving the money to the big banks, but to the community banks, because that is where our businesses operate with. They put money in people's pockets. They put shots in people's arms. They opened our schools back up. They saved the pensions of some of our union members, and they did that without one Republican vote. Now, that could have been, they could have said, okay, we're tired, we did enough, we're going to sit back. But they didn't do that. They rolled up their sleeves, passed a bipartisan infrastructure law, roads, bridges, broadband. I live in a state where 30% of rural South Carolina had no access to broadband. And in the midst of COVID, when we need to do telehealth, how do you do telehealth? In the midst of COVID, when your kids can't go to school and have to do their education online. How do you do that in the community? You know, we ask our kids, we want our kids to compete with the rest of the world. But hell, if they can't connect with the rest of the world, how can they compete? Woo! But our president and our vice president saw that and said, we're going to do something about it. Passed the largest bipartisan infrastructure bill since Dwight Eisenhower. Woo! Ripped out those, Ms. Virgie, those lead pipes that many times are in our communities. This president, going back to the judiciary, has appointed more black women to the appellate court than all presidents combined. The PACT Act, many of our veterans and their families exposed to toxic fumes and chemicals. Many of them, soldiers on the ground, look like us. Come back home, suffering with PTSD, needing the resources. Ted Cruz fist bumping because they thought that they stopped the legislation, but we still got it done. That was because of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. The Inflation Reduction Act, Ms. Virgie, fighting the climate crisis in this country, but most importantly, making sure with an eye to the environmental injustices that we find in our communities. And then that part about the health care of this country. Capping the costs of prescription drugs for our seniors at $2,000 a year. Bringing down the cost of insulin at $35 a month. And you all know in our community, you fit in one of three categories. You are diabetic, pre-diabetic, or you know somebody with diabetes. And so to go in and say, instead of paying $400 and $500 a month for insulin, you're going to pay $35 a month? Our president and our vice president did that. And the last thing I would say is we give Joe Biden his flowers. Because it wasn't only just legislatively, but it was also politically. I'm 48 years old. For all of my life, we have kicked off this presidential primary process in 2 states, Iowa and New Hampshire. And there's nothing wrong with Iowa and New Hampshire. I visit them. We got good Democrats that live there. But there aren't a whole lot of us that live in Iowa and New Hampshire. And we often hear folks saying that the black voters, black women, are the backbone and the heart and the soul of the Democratic Party. But if that was the case, then why were we the folks at the end of the line in terms of helping to determine the most powerful person? Joe Biden said, you know what, we're going to change this. We're going to add more black voices. And actually, instead of having black folks sitting at the back of the bus, we're going to move them to driving the bus. He made South Carolina the first in the nation primary, the same state where 40% of enslaved people came to this country in shackles, the same state in which many of their progeny had to pick cotton like my grandma. And he said, I see you, I hear you, I value you, and I value you and fight for you so much that instead of talking about ethanol in that presidential conversation, we're going to start talking about historically black colleges and universities. We're going to start talking about the black infant mortality rate. We're going to start talking about how we help close the racial wealth gap. And this is a change not just for this election cycle. We will be able to do this cycle after cycle after cycle after cycle. That's a fundamental change, folks. And that is what we have gotten in this old white guy from Delaware, Joe Biden. And that's why I often tell people, I still ride with Biden. I will always ride with Biden because he always has ridden with us. But I'm going to talk and close with this and talk about our MVP, our Madam Vice President. Folks, we are part of a team. We're a part of a family. And what we have seen right now is the largest family reunion that I have seen in the history of this country. Because you go on that floor and you see the hope and joy. You see people are hugging, they're dancing, they're crying. Everything in between. Everything you see at a family reunion, you'll see it on that floor, because we are a family, we are a team. I call us Team Hope and Joy. And on that Team Hope and Joy, you got an MVP, our Madam Vice President Kamala Harris, and you got a coach in Tim Walz. And then we know, Ms. Virgil, we know that on a team, you can have an MVP, you can have a coach, but you're not going to win a championship unless you got some good role players.
Right.
And we are the role players. We got a role to play in this process, because in order to win this election, the MVP is going to do what the MVP does. You have seen her. She has been Michael Jordan every step of the way since the decision has been made. She has been showing up and showing out. And the coach has been doing the things that the coach, hyping us up, having our backs. But it's now time for the role players, when you leave here in Chicago, to do your part. It's knocking on those doors. It's picking up that phone. It's dragging that niece and nephew off of the couch and getting them into the street, getting them into your car, and getting their butts over to the polling precinct. It's making sure that we are talking to people about the issues that are impacting us right now. That is our job, is making sure that we protect folks when they go to cast their ballots. And my friends, when we do that, and I've told the VP, I said, Madam Vice President, with everything I got, with every breath in my body, with every little bit of blood that flows through my veins, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure you are the President of the United States. And I hope, my friends, that you have that same commitment. They, the other side, Donald Trump's party, is a party of fear. We, the Democratic Party, is a party of hope, because we know that they say, make America great again, saying that our past was when America was the greatest. But we know that America's greatness is in her future, not in her past. We are a land of possibilities where all of us, even a round-headed kid from Orangeburg, South Carolina, born to a teen mom, raised by grandparents with an 8th grade education, a 4th grade education, one who was a sharecropper who picked cotton, and the other and cleaned houses, and the other one who paved roads. Only in America does that happen. Only in America do you get a black man and a black woman to convene a convention where you nominate a black woman to be president of the United States. Only in America. And I'm going to close with this, my friends. I'm going to close with this, because we are a party of the future. We're not a party of the past. We're a party of the future. So I'm going to give you a little glimpse into the future. January 20th, 2025.
All right.
Washington, D.C. Cold, but a very clear day. All y'all wearing your nice stuff. We go to the U.S. Capitol. And on the steps of the Capitol, there's a black woman, a Delta, cloaked in black. And she, Ketanji Brown Jackson, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, has a Bible in her hand. It's the Bible of Frederick Douglass. And stepping onto that stage is another black woman. And she may have on white. She may even have on a tan suit. But she's going to step onto that dais, and she's going to put her hand on that Bible. This AKA, this graduate of Howard University, a historically black college and university, on the steps of a building built by the hands of slaves. This woman, Ketanji Brown Jackson, will ask her, Madam President, do you... I'm about to do it. Madam President, do you swear to protect and defend the Constitution of these United States? And she says, yes, I do. And folks, you will make that future happen this November. Let's go, because when we fight, let's win this.
Boy, he took my time, so y'all don't expect me to say too much here. Because he took my time, okay? Again, I just want to say good morning, and oh my, when I look out at this room filled with the powerful, unstoppable black folks, I'm reminded of the incredible force we have. In this Democratic Party, we are the backbone, like the chairman said, and the driving force are ones who have always shown up and spoke up and led the way. So in this moment, I'm just so excited because a member of our team is here today who's everybody love, and I just love his music. Because every time I hear him, when he said he would come and share with us today, I'm so excited. I want you all to just stand up and meet the great John Legend.
How are you? How's everybody? Good morning.
Good morning.
I was singing about 1:30, 2 in the morning last night. But I'm awake, I'm fired up and ready to go. And I'm so happy to see everybody here this morning. I'm so thrilled by what our chairman, Brother Harrison, just did on this stage, giving us the vision of what we're going to see on January 20th, 2025. I'm so that's our project 2025. We're going to make sure we see history on the steps of the Capitol on January 20th. I'm so excited to do it. It's an honor to be here with all of you, honored to be here with the Black Caucus of the DNC. We know this is a pivotal moment for our country, for our party, and we know that black folks are the backbone of the DNC. We know that all the work we put in, all the organizing we do is so pivotal for what we want to accomplish for this country. I'm so excited that we're here together to prepare ourselves, inspire ourselves to get out there and do the work that we need to do. Is that right?
That's right.
I want to start by thanking everybody, each of you, for all the work you do day in and day out to champion the rights and the dignity of black people. Most people think of me first and foremost as a musician, but I stand here today not just as an artist, but as a citizen, as an advocate, and as a father. Now, as a citizen, I'm here to celebrate the fact that I have a voice in this country like we all do. The same voice we have together is our vote. And I'm here because as citizens, it's our duty to not just vote, but to protect our democratic principles when they are under attack by the forces who want to take our voice away. They'd rather have a king, they'd rather have a dictator, but we want the voices of the people to be heard because we know when they're heard, the government is accountable to the people and does the right things for the people. And that's where the advocate side takes over. Having a voice and a platform, having the opportunity to reach millions of people, it requires me, it's a responsibility for me to use that platform to try to make change that's going to make our country better and stronger. And over the past decade, I started an organization called Free America. And we've dedicated ourselves to listening and learning what was going on in our country, and then taking the feedback we've been getting from the community and advocating for change all across the country, whether it's locally in state government and with our national government too. And our efforts have centered on crucial issues like extending voting rights, advancing affordable housing, supporting pretrial freedom, pretrial reform, all aimed at building a fairer and more inclusive society. And more than anything else, like I said, today I'm also here as a father, and it's the most important role I play, and it's how I remember what we're fighting for. A world where our children have safety and security, a clean, livable environment, a just economy, an equitable justice system, and where they are free to use their own voices as citizens and advocates, free to make their own healthcare choices, reproductive choices. That's the kind of country we want to see together for our children, and that's what we are fighting for. And on my way to Chicago earlier this week, I was reflecting on how what I think of as my journey was never actually mine alone. How much my path to this point, our path to this point, has been paved not only by the civil rights leaders who courageously marched and the community organizers who rallied for justice, but also by those in office who have tirelessly fought for policy and change. Leaders like Shirley Chisholm, whose unwavering dedication to reform and equality laid foundational changes in our political landscape, and the late, great John Lewis, whose lifelong commitment to civil rights and voting rights continues to inspire us all. I got to sing our song Glory last night at the concert, and my friend Carmen and I wrote that song because we saw the work of Ava DuVernay in capturing the story of Dr. King and John Lewis and everybody who marched with them for us to have voting rights. And we wrote that song not only inspired by them, but inspired by folks in the streets marching in our current day, speaking up for Black Lives Matter, speaking up for justice in our system. We wrote that song inspired by them, and then in turn they march with our song, and we're inspired every day when we see people march with our song. And it's in the spirit of that song, with those powerful winds at our back, that we come together this morning as part of a movement for change. One of the most important books I've read in the past few years is by my friend Heather McGhee. It's called The Sum of Us. In it, Heather lays out exactly how much the zero-sum game has cost us. It challenges the notion that for one to gain, another has to lose. It's an idea that has poisoned our policies and hindered our progress. She talks about the public pool, how when Black people were allowed to swim in the public pool, instead of integrating the pool, they rather shut it down so nobody had a pool. So everybody lost because people were worried that us being included was going to cost them something. And America's story has always been marred by efforts to exclude, to dominate, to subjugate, to keep certain groups of people with no voice, no power, no opportunity. Workers, women, indigenous people, Black people, immigrants, the LGBTQ community, all because of a fear that if those people did better, people at the top would lose out. But the miracle of our story is that as we expanded opportunity, in our best moments, we proved that those fears were unfounded. When more people made more money, rich business owners didn't suffer. They got more customers. Prosperity increased for everybody. When people who'd been excluded finally got their voices heard, it didn't mean anybody else had to sit down and shut up. Our national conversations got better, fuller, truer, smarter, and so did our public policies. Our nation is at its best when we realize that when we all do better, we all do better. Yeah. Yet today, we're still fighting that zero-sum thinking that's been holding us back since the beginning. We see it in the efforts to deny people their right to vote. We see it in the shameful attacks on trans rights. We see it across the globe. Nativism, sectarianism, exploitation, and authoritarianism are gaining ground, and we see it in the efforts to hoard economic opportunity too. Today, the 26 wealthiest people on the planet own as much as the 3.5 billion poorest. And powerful people are spending lots of money lobbying to keep it that way. Some would say one even bought a whole social media network to keep it that way. And of course, we see it in our policing and carceral systems. In the simple fact that so many people heard Black Lives Matter, and it assumed in their mind that other lives couldn't matter if our lives mattered too. That's zero-sum thinking if I've ever seen it. But what I also see today is hope. As our forever First Lady said last night, hope is making a comeback. All right? And we are so fortunate that we have the opportunity to vote for Vice President Harris to become the President of these United States of America. And don't you just love watching her campaign? Don't you see her exuding joy and hope and fighting for freedom and knowing that when we fight, we win. Seeing all of you here today, leaders who govern from a place of love, not division, leaders who use your influence on behalf of our democracy, leaders who remember just how interdependent we are, leaders who build communities that are healthier and safer for everybody, where everybody can live up to their full potential. That gives me hope. And when you speak to voters, when you craft policies, you're painting a picture of a future that includes all of us. Nobody has to be excluded. This vision, your work, is vital. It's about showing that our nation is at its best when we realize that we all do better when we all do better. So let's continue to work together to build a world that's worthy of our ancestors' sacrifices and our children's dreams. Let's keep fighting for justice, for equality, for the liberation of all people, for all the work you do, for all the hope you inspire, and for the inclusive, better, brighter future you're helping to build. From the bottom of my heart, I want to say thank you. God bless you. I'll see you tonight. All right.
We're gonna get a picture right here.
Thank you. Where you want me to go?
Right here.
We're going to stay up here.
Stay up here. Come in the middle. Come in the middle.
Getting our shot cleaned up here. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. I got them half on anyway. I think I'll put my slippers on. Okay.
At least not that I know.
Okay, we're gonna keep this show moving. Yes. So I am, on Monday, our theme is our values, our voice, our vote. And so we focus on our values, our voice, our vote. And Sunday night was our spiritual, we very ethnic. We start with church because that's where it all started in the beginning. And that's what gives us covering when we do things like this because, it's tough because this job ain't easy, because we do the work. We make sure it happened, but somebody else take the credit for it. And so this time, we're going to do the work. We're going to get out there and work our tails off, and guess what? We're going to take the credit. So I am excited again because in the House is the first black lieutenant governor in the state of Michigan, and you know why? I'm from Michigan, y'all. And he my lieutenant governor, and I think I got the first black speaker in the House somewhere from Michigan. Speaker Joe Tate, stand up. Speaker Tate. See what we do in Michigan, y'all. See what we do in Michigan, y'all. And we got our first woman Supreme Court Justice. Okay?
We did a
So I'm happy to introduce my Lieutenant Governor, Garland Gilchrist.
All right, what's up, Black Caucus? What up, though? We say in Detroit. Y'all all got people in Detroit. Y'all know what that means. Look, I am so honored to be here with you because this is the group of people who not only power our democracy, but power our victory. Every single social movement that has delivered progress for the American people has emanated from the black community. And I want to thank you for how you represent, how you show up, how you make sure that everybody remembers that America's promise belongs to us too. Some people act like we didn't get promised something. Didn't Martin Luther King talk about that promissory note? You know what I'm saying? So a promise was made to black folks just like it was made to everybody else. But I think what we are recognizing in this century and this generation is that sometimes you got to take your promises. Okay. You got to take what people promise you. Just because they promised it to you doesn't mean they're going to give it to you.
Right.
So what we have to recognize is that everybody in our community, as a result of what we are owed, we got to make sure everybody does their part to go get it. And so in order to do that, we have to accept a truth that the organizers and the elders taught me and taught all of us, that every person is one conversation away from doing the right thing. You are one conversation away from voting for a Democrat. Y'all don't agree with me. I think everybody's one conversation away from voting for somebody. Ain't that right? Thank you. Look, so maybe you're not confident in being one conversation away because you may not be confident in your ability to have that conversation. Well, I want to challenge you because somebody in this room is going to convince somebody else to vote for a Democrat. Somebody in this room is going to convince somebody to vote for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. Somebody in this room is going to convince somebody to vote for a Democratic state legislature in Michigan or someplace else in the country. Because when we win at every level, when we converse at every level, and when we convert at every level, we get more for our people. And the beautiful thing is what's good for us is actually good for everybody. We are not a selfish people. My father told us that black folks is the most unselfish and most forgiving people on the planet. And I'm not saying that we need to stop being that and stop doing that. What I'm saying is, I did say but, what I'm saying is, we can both hold our unselfishness and our humility, our humanity, and claim what is ours. And when we claim our power, nobody can take it away from us. I know that the Black Caucus is powerful. I know that black people are powerful. I know that Black America is powerful, and I know that we can win together. Thank you. God bless you, Black Caucus. Let's get out and get everything that we came for.
Okay, so our next great speaker is Dr. Lamont Rolet, right? The president of Kane University. Come on up.
Good morning, folks. Good morning.
Good morning.
As I look around the room here today, that brother, Lieutenant Governor, got me fired up. Right? And just so, raise your hand if you ever sat in a room and you're in a leadership position and you're the only person of color.
Can I raise 2 hands?
And sometimes there's difference of opinions and thoughts that are going on. And sometimes you just say, is this the right time for me to say something? Is it the time, if I say something, will there be retributions for that, for me making those comments? So at times like this, as I come here this evening, this morning, today, I feel good because it's food for the soul. As I look around here, I'm getting recharged because I'm no longer in a room where I'm the only one that looks like me. I'm in a room with folks that have similar thoughts, similar experiences, and similar pasts and similar stories, right? And together, that mosaic comes together and creates something incredible. So I want to thank Chairwoman Rollins for that kind introduction, but just bringing me here today. Right? I'm just a small president of a mid-sized university in New Jersey. So for me to stand here today and to talk about bold leadership, that's only God. So distinguished members of the DNC Black Caucus, government leaders, and honored guests, it is a profound privilege to stand before you today. I want to extend my heartfelt gratitude for the opportunity to address this important gathering, especially during such a critical time in our nation's history. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Dr. Lamont Rolet, the first black president of Cain University and Wenzhou Cain University in China. Heaviest the head that wears that crown, being the first. My journey in education has taken me from the classroom where I taught math to the boardrooms where I've had the honor of serving as principal, superintendent, and as the first black educational commissioner of the great state of New Jersey. Now, I lead Cain University, a minority-serving institution, Hispanic-serving institution that is deeply committed to diversity, equity, and justice. My experiences across these roles have solidified my beliefs that in the power of bold leadership, leadership that is essential to our schools, in our corporate America, and definitely in the halls of government. Bold leadership matters because it requires us to stand up for justice, to advocate for equity, and to defend our democracy at every turn. As Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. once said, the time is always right to do what is right.
Amen.
These words resonate deeply today as we find ourselves at a crossroads where bold and decisive action is necessary to protect the rights and freedom of our communities. Today, I want to talk about what is at stake for communities of color in the upcoming 2024 election cycle. We are at a pivotal moment in history, in our nation's history, that demands bold, courageous leadership. We're witnessing unprecedented challenges to the rights and freedoms that we hold dear. Women's rights are under attack. Diversity and equity inclusion programs are being undercut and eliminated. The foundation of our democracy, free and fair voting rights, are being challenged in every part of this country. It is up to us to motivate and empower the next generation of leaders to rise to these challenges, to tackle climate change together, to build our economy for the long haul, to address our immigration issues fairly and humanely. And at Cain University, we see education as new justice, a new frontier for social justice. It's a recognition that education is not just about earning a degree, it's about closing equity gaps. To do that, we must ensure that every student has the opportunity to succeed regardless of their background. At Cain, we are also focused on closing equity gaps outside of our campus as partners with New Jersey Economic Development Authority on the efforts to address equity and disparities in the business community. Together, we are developing, the state and my university, hosting a comprehensive education certification training program for women and minority-owned businesses in New Jersey. This initiative is a concerted effort by our Governor Murphy and his administration to close a large equity gap by better preparing women and minority-owned businesses leaders to compete for and earn valuable public construction contracts, because we all know wealth is in property. We also focus on empowering our students to vote. Our students walk the campus every year signing up their peers to ensure they can vote on election day. In fact, Kean University has won the New Jersey Ballot Bowl for our student voter registration for the last several years. I always tell our students, I don't care who you vote for, but I do care that you vote and express your views. I'm calling on each and every one of them to vote in this pivotal election. It is our moral obligation to ensure that everyone in our community can express themselves without fear of retribution. Last spring, we witnessed protests erupting all on college campuses across this country as students, faculty, and staff grappled with the complex and deeply emotional issues surrounding the Israel-Palestinian conflict. These demonstrations were a powerful reminder of the passion and conviction of our young people that bring to the critical issues of our time. However, they also highlighted the challenges that arise when managing such intense and often divisive expressions of freedom of speech. On some campuses, these protests unfortunately escalated into unsafe situations where voices were not just silenced, but they were physically hurt. On other campuses, we saw leaders who managed these challenges with a steady hand, ensuring that all voices are heard. The difference in outcomes was stark, underscoring the crucial role that leadership plays in navigating these difficult moments. At Kean University, we're committed to fostering an environment where difficult conversations can take place, where disagreements do not lead to disrespect, and where every member of our community feels safe to express their views. Early this week, I had the privilege of speaking with the members of the American Federation of Teachers, where we discussed the collaboration of respect. These principles are essential, not just within the classroom, but also in our civic engagement. Kean University is New Jersey's only urban research university. In addition to being a minority-serving institution, these distinctions are not just titles, they're integral to our identity. They guide our missions to address issues that directly impact our urban communities and ensure that we're providing opportunities for all students, especially those from historically underrepresented groups. But today, I also speak to you as a father. I'm the proud father of 2 young women who are currently college students. They're part of the next generation of leaders that we must empower to take active roles in our democracy and challenge our society. It is our responsibility to prepare them not only for their careers, but also for their roles as engaged citizens who will carry the torch of justice and equity for all. This is our moment. This is our time for bold leadership. We have a responsibility to stand up for educational justice, to stand up for the next generation, and to empower them to address the critical issues of our time. There have been many pivotal periods like this in history, and it's up to us to rise to that occasion. So in closing, I want to express my deepest gratitude to each and every one of you for the work that you are doing to uplift and support our Black community. I look forward to walking this path with you. Together we'll continue to fight for justice, equity, and democracy. All right, so could you guys indulge me for a second? This is great to have a canned speech in place, but I need everyone to stand up for a second, please.
All right.
So, Honorable Mayor Ras Barak of Newark, he holds these monthly meetings, and he talks about holding the line. And I think right now, in a time like this, we need to hold the line, right? Because when we hold the line, we win, right? So remember that. When I say we hold the line, we win. So now I need you to indulge me, and I need you to lock arms with one another, please. Lock arms. You don't have to go across the aisles, but just lock arms. Now I'm going to go a little churchy on y'all a little bit. Everybody locking arms back in there? Ecclesiastic 4:12 tells us that there is strength in numbers. The one may be overpowered, 2 can defend themselves. A cord of 3 stands is not quickly broken. So I ask you, as we hold the line, as we link arms, as we strengthen ourselves, because when we hold the line, we win. Because when we hold the line, we win. So I ask you to hold the line for social and environmental justice. I ask you to hold the line on immigration reform and immigrant rights. Hold the line for women's rights. Hold the line for voting rights. Hold the line for educational justice, because when we hold the line, we win. So God bless each and every one of you, and thank God.
Thank you so much, Doc. Thank you so much. You were very inspiring. Thank you. Hey, are we getting educated today?
Yes.
We got blessed and motivated on Sunday. Monday, we were educated again. But Monday night, what did we do? We had a good time at the DuSable Museum. We partied.
Yeah.
So today we're gonna get educated again. So you know those books that you have on your seat? That nice Essence magazine? Isn't it wonderful? Did you see who's on the cover of it? Isn't it beautiful? Madam President is on the cover. Isn't that wonderful? Oh my. We're so happy again to have in our midst and a part of our team the great Essence CEO, Caroline Wanga, and the CEO of the Global Black Forum, Alfonso David. Can you come? Can we welcome them? Let's welcome them. Oh my God, she's so pretty. Hi, how are you? Good to see you.
Good morning, everyone. As you heard, my name is Alfonso David. I am the president and the CEO of the Global Black Economic Forum. I'm joined this morning by my sister, Caroline Wanga, who is the CEO and president of Essence Ventures. So those are our official names and our official titles. But we also go by pseudonyms. I'm Justice, and she's Joy. Justice, Joy. Justice, joy. Now, in your seats this morning, you got a little joy, hopefully. All of you should have gotten a magazine with someone really special on that magazine cover. She's going to talk about that. But before we get there, I just want to spend a few minutes talking about justice. We know how important it is that we elect someone who is going to protect the interests of people of color and marginalized communities. We know that. This election is about fighting for the future of our nation. And as we think about what we have to do in this election, we are trying to do our part. The Global Black Economic Forum, Essence, Refinery 29, BeautyCon, Girls United, Afropunk, all of the companies that are a part of the Sundial group of companies. If you haven't heard of them, look up the Sundial group of companies. We've gotten together to create an initiative. It's called Paint the Polls. Paint the Polls. And we want to paint the polls black. Right? So how do we do that? We want to make sure we educate our community about the issues. All of us don't have time to sort of go through the policy books. We want to make sure we take the time to unlock what those issues are for our community. That's the first point. Educate and make sure people are aware. The second, we need to make sure we're all registered to vote. All of us have to be registered to vote. The third, we have to mobilize. And when we say mobilize, that means, yes, you're registered to vote, but you have to show up to vote. And you have to make sure every other person you know shows up to vote. And then finally, we want to make sure you're protected when you show up to vote. Right? When you show up to vote, we want to make sure that they're not asking you for another form of ID, but not someone else. We want to make sure that when you show up to vote, they don't tell you that the polling station is closing in 5 minutes, when in fact, it's going to be open for another 3 hours. So when those things happen, you know who to call. So it's educate, it's register, mobilize, and protect. It's called Paint the Polls. We've already held our first event virtually. More than 200,000 people participated. 200,000 people participated in our first event. We're hosting another 10 events before November. We want you to join us. Go to paintthepollsblack.com, go to essence.com, go to Global Black Economic Forum. You can get all of this information online. We need to make sure we do this together. And that is a part of our journey to getting to that place that we call liberation. So that's what I want to give you as a message today about justice. And now I want to turn it over to my partner who's going to talk about joy.
Hey, y'all look great. Caroline Wanga, I am the president and CEO of Essence Ventures and the other half of the Joy and Justice Tour. Thank you for the opportunity to be with you today. I think most of you know that Essence Magazine in particular is a cultural artifact this community has owned for almost over 50 years. And we fully intend to keep it for another 50. It ain't going nowhere. But here's why that matters. Here's why that matters. Essence has been around for 50 years. From its founding to now, it has continued to be the place where Black women look for the inspiration, the encouragement, and the information about how we need to exist in the world. The most beautiful story I can tell you in the time that I have to be the steward of this cultural artifact is Essence did its job really, really well, which now means that Black women are the CEOs of home, the CEOs of culture, and the CEOs of community. Not Black home, Black culture, and Black communities. They are the CEOs of home, culture, and community. Why does that matter? Because while there may be some people delayed in understanding that message or cherry-pick through it when it's most convenient for them, our intent in this phase of Essence is to make sure that they are treated as such, that they are respected in the very same way you would a multi-billion-dollar CEO standing in front of you trying to do something is the same thing you see when you see somebody that looks like me. And here's why that's important in this season. Do not mistake that to mean that brothers don't matter. Do not mistake that to mean that communities don't matter. What we're doing is we're talking to the most powerful influence in the community on behalf of what she is for the community. And where her head turns, as does the community. So as we sit in one of the most critical elections of our lifetime, we are not concerned about whether or not Black women are going to show up. We want to make sure they understand if she doesn't, it's bad for you. The engagement of the Black woman is what makes any engagement complete, including civic engagement. And so what the ask is today, and remember that this right here had nothing to do with anything other than there will never be a day again where there's not been a Black vice president of the United States. And why does that matter? Because the floor just raised. Whatever your goals were before this happened, they're old. And what we need is for the CEOs of home, culture, and community and their communities to play a role in reestablishing the floor. And I don't care if there's self-preservation that's a concern, because the people before you did more with less, so do more with more. It's an obligation, not a choice. If the couch wins this election, we failed. But I'm talking to y'all, so let me tell you what I tell them other people. Because alongside being the CEOs of home, culture, and community, we also fundamentally believe at Essence Ventures that the revolution must be financed. And if I put 3 dots, after that I would put at full value. Because if I was a white male CEO of a big company, I wouldn't have to explain it. So while we want to make sure that we are taking the role of CEO in home, culture, and community and fortifying the fact that a Black woman can sneeze on a Kleenex and you'd pay $1 million for it, we know what she'll do in times of civic engagement. We are sitting with those partners on the other side, something that rhymes with NC, and all those other partners we work with, and reminding them that engaging with her through what we are at Essence Ventures and Sundial Media of companies cannot happen if they're not concerned about our impact. The Black community and Black women are no longer an intermittent social dating arrangement. We're not here to comfort you when you're flailing and then you don't care till you're not good again. And so we are ensuring that on the same side of giving the information, the sustenance and the truth of the CEOs of home, culture, and community their due, and teaching them how to occupy the throne they already have. As we influence culture, we fight for parity and equity, and we celebrate everything big and small, which is why we have permission to live at the intersection of joy and justice. We don't have to decide anymore. We're making sure that when they come to us, they understand the value we drive for decades. And so I need y'all to behave as the CEOs of home, culture, and community. What we're doing on the other side is making sure the financial recompense for that status is adequately taken care of. And so I'll leave you with both the charge we're taking with us to make sure our value is respected, including those that want media dollars, because I'm sure still wondering how much money some of these entities are choosing to invest in this season. Well, we got that fight. I just need you to show up so that when they pay me in full value, you show them what they got. So, this moment, this time is an all-in, full-contact, participatory endeavor. Everybody plays a role, not the same role. In the role we are best positioned to impact, and the choice not to play a role will play a role. Don't disappoint the future by failing to move the past forward. Let's do this.
Come on, the panel's getting ready to go. While our panel, you don't want to miss nothing, so you can't leave because you're going to miss a lot of the good stuff.
All right.
So while our panel is coming, I want to recognize a couple people. We'll call them. Will you stand up for Mississippi, who helped me put all of this, co-chair these events that, you know, if we couldn't have done it without you, buddy. Okay? And I thought I saw the great Lorraine Miller. Is she in the house? One of my mentors. Yeah. Will you stand up, Lorraine Miller? You guys got to meet Lorraine Miller. Lorraine Miller was the first black clerk of the Capitol, and she's a member of the caucus. Thank you. Love you so much. She was the first clerk of the congressional. Black woman for Nancy Pelosi and a whole bunch of other folk. A whole bunch of other folks. She sat there. And let me introduce our panel. On Monday, we had the seat at the table, and we had some great speakers telling our truth. I mean, it was on, y'all. If y'all missed it, who all was here? Wasn't it on Monday? Was it powerful on Monday? Hey, wait till you hear what we got today, okay? We got Chop It Up today, but y'all. So in the Black Caucus, we have seat at the table, that's women, and Chop It Up is the guys, okay? And we got the great Reverend Mark is facilitating today. Y'all see him on TV, y'all see him on the radio. He travels with us all over doing all of this stuff, and most of the members, the guys, they're part of our team when we out here trying to educate these young folk, these young black men. So we need somebody to talk to them. If you were at the Sunday service, you heard Dr. Haynes and Dr. Jamal Bryan and Dr. Tish Dixon and hey, Michael Eric Dyson, did he tear it up too? Were we on Sunday night? Well, you're going to get the other side of it. Dr. Mark, come on up.
DNC Black Caucus, good morning. Good morning. Good to see everyone. Let's give Virgie Rollins another round of applause. Look at y'all, y'all look great. Isn't this a great convention? Doesn't this feel good? We are about to elect the first black woman president of the United States, the first South Asian woman president of the United States, and the first Jamaican woman president of the United States. And look how far we've come. We are here this morning to talk about black men and what our role is. Amen?
Amen.
It does not make a black man less of a man to support and uplift the black woman. In fact, it makes you more of a man when you're not threatened, when you're not competing, and when we're supporting one another. And one great black man said, one of the greatest ever, Kwame Nkrumah, the first president of Ghana, the first to lead the revolutionary movement in Ghana. He said that a nation's revolutionary awareness is determined by the political maturity, not of its men, but by the political maturity of its women. As the first to share, the first to nurse, the first to feed our young people, our children, our offspring. And we did that for centuries in this country for offspring that weren't even our own, didn't we? So we've earned this right, amen?
Amen.
We have a dynamic panel here to have this discussion. They told me you would join us, brother. Well, since you coming on, we're gonna bring you, say your name first. Hollywood star and activist. You actually spell that, when you have an actor and an activist, you spell it A-C-T-O-R-V-I-S-T, activist. Wendell Pierce. And yeah, I thought other folks supposed to be up here. I'm looking for it because my man came in, but he's not. I'm about to bring him up right now. DeWan and I gonna go back and forth like we do in real life, even in front of y'all. That's just bad habits. Brandon Broderick Johnson, please give him a round of applause. VP, CEO of Comcast. Is that chair up here? Broderick, I think that's it right here next to me. Okay. We can do better than that. Wendell Pierce, Broderick Johnson, give them a round of applause. We want to recognize Travis Nelson, who's also here on the panel, state representative from Oregon. Mark Mallory, former mayor of Cincinnati. Dominic Whitehead, political director for the NAACP. And Dominique D. Calhoun, the 81st president of the National Bar Association. Give him a round of applause. And so we want to get into this, and you brothers have a moment. This is a 20-minute panel. I don't know, DeWan, why you make my panel 20 minutes? I'm supposed to.
Get to it.
This is a heavy conversation.
Straight into it. Get right into it.
5 minutes? I got 5 minute panel? To do all this? Are you serious? Oh, you messing with me. That's Virgie. Y'all see how folk bring me up and then carry on and try to make me look crazy in front of a whole group of people? No, that's not. But those again, uplift the black woman. Even when she messing with you, we love them. We love them. All right. So, brothers, quick comments, 2 minutes or less, please. And feel free to share a little bit about what your work is, especially when it comes to black men staying and being woke, and what you think are the challenges, if any. Because let's face it, we had, 44,000 black men on the call after the Win with Black Women call, raised a bunch of money, but we know we are the most targeted, we are the most targeted on social media for disinformation and misinformation. A lot of confusion. And there's a thing going on deliberately to pit black men against black women and vice versa. That's being, you see that? So we got to combat that. So we'll start to my immediate left and go down the line. What are some of the things that each of you are doing to inform and educate and organize and mobilize black men, and what are some of the challenges that you think we need to all work together to overcome? Especially, we got 70 days to act right, y'all.
That's right.
Now, after 7 days, we can go back there and crazy. Right? I tell people during Kwanzaa, for 7 days, we're going to be conscious, then we can go back to self-hatred. But for 7 days, for 70 days, I hope not. I hope not. But for those who got to, just wait 70 days to go back. Please, be good. Broderick Johnson.
Hey, Mark, it's great to be here with you, brother. I've known this brother for decades and decades, and it's really
Couldn't be that many because I'm Gen Z.
1 decade. I know. I've known his brother since 2010, plus 30 more years. Okay, so my name is Broderick Johnson, and I hail from the great city of Baltimore, Maryland. Baltimore is in the house. Madam Chair, also attended law school at the University of Michigan, so all these great leaders from the University of Michigan, go blue. Exactly. I've had a distinguished career, and I'm not retired yet. I got a lot more to do. I am an executive vice president at Comcast. I lead all of our digital equity work. I have had the distinction, though, of working for 2 presidents of the United States, President Bill Clinton and President Barack Obama. And with President Obama, I actually was the first chair of his My Brother's Keeper initiative.
That's right.
Right, which is still part of the Obama Foundation, is very directed at uplifting the lives of boys and young men of color all across this country. During the time I worked for these 2 presidents, though, we talked, and we continue to talk about closing the digital divide and how the digital divide is such a challenge for our communities especially, and it continues to be one as well. And so when you think about black men, and I hear black men complain that this administration has not done anything for them, for our communities, one of the things I think we need to emphasize, and this was mentioned by the chair, by Chair Jamie Harrison, is this administration, the Biden-Harris administration, has invested tens of billions of dollars to close the digital divide. Tens of billions of dollars to close the digital divide. And we need to make sure, though, that brothers understand why that is important, because a lot of folks don't understand the relevance in their lives of being able to use the internet. Education. We certainly saw during the pandemic how important it was that our children had access and were using the internet to close the homework gap. Telehealth. Think of all the folks who couldn't make doctor's appointments. Remember COVID and trying to get an appointment to get a shot? If you weren't online and you were just trying to make phone calls, it was virtually impossible and tragic in many cases. Job skills training, also important. The thing I also want to mention is joy. You know, we're in a time where we are acknowledging a great deal about joy and hope. Being on the internet, being online. Think about the Olympics. If you were streaming the Olympics, all the joy you got watching Simone Biles win gold medals, for example, or the sprinters. So joy is an extremely part of why people should be on the internet as well. So it's not just about all of the essential things, but it's also the things that make us all happy. We need to make sure that brothers understand that this administration has done an awful lot in an unprecedented way to help close the digital divide, and they need to participate in it.
All right.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Broderick. Appreciate you. 2 minutes, brothers, quickly, please, because with that we can do some back and forth, since I only got 5 minutes.
If I only have 2 minutes, I just want to do a couple of things. I'm Mark Mallory, the former mayor of the great city of Cincinnati. I see we got some fans in the house. I am the first directly elected black mayor of Cincinnati. Every tough race that I've had, I've been outspent. Every tough race that I've had, they said I couldn't win. Every tough race that I've had, I've never been ahead in the polls. And here's why I'm making these points. We are on an upswing right now. We're raising a lot of money for the campaign. The polls are looking a whole lot better. There's a lot of energy in this room and at the convention hall and around the country. But I want to temper that with the reality that if we don't work as hard as we possibly can on the ground, we may still have a problem. Now, I'm looking at Coleman Eldridge right here, who is the chair of the Kentucky Democrat Party. He knows how to run a ground game because they elected Andy Beshear a Democrat as the governor of the state of Kentucky. Not easy to do. I want to emphasize, though, that we have to communicate with black men specifically, up to your point, about what this administration has done for black men. And I will say this, anytime you're working to improve education, you're working to improve the lives of black folks, because we are disproportionately affected by negative outcomes in education. Anytime you're working to improve the environment, you are working to improve the lives of black folks, because black people are disproportionately affected by negative environmental outcomes, and so on and so on. Jobs, you name it. So we have a lot of work to do. I'm looking at this room, and I know there are a lot of leaders in here. You must be leaders because you got in this room. And when you get back home, you've got to do a lot of work, but it can't be what we normally do, because this is a truncated campaign. We've never experienced this before. We've never had a switch flip like this before. So whatever you normally do, it's not enough. Whatever you've done in the past, it is not enough. We have to engage directly. We have to make sure folks are registered. We have to make sure they're turned out. You know you got that nephew. You know you got that nephew who doesn't always participate. But this time we got to get him. Thank you.
Right, all right. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. We're just going to do this quick round, and we'll have some back and forth as well. My brother. Yes.
I'll
Dominic.
be quick. Dominic Whitehead, Senior Vice President of Campaigns and Mobilization for the NAACP. And I'll really piggyback off what the mayor just said a second ago. We have to do things differently, but the piece I'm going to look at, it's all about one, infrastructure and making sure everyone in this room is considered a trusted messenger. So going back home and engaging with black men directly as a trusted messenger. I say that to say because we know there's a lot of mis and disinformation targeted specifically to black men. The NAACP is nonpartisan, but we are not blind. We're political as hell. And so the piece I will say around that, and in terms of what we're looking up in terms of black men, one of the things we're focusing in on is what the attacks that are about to come on the vice president. And so with that disinformation coming out with the attacks on the vice president, it's going to be incumbent on all of us in here in this room to go back into our communities directly and actually talk about what the Biden-Harris administration has done directly to black men, for the black community. So the piece that NAACP is looking at is messaging, is research, how we combat mis and disinformation. We're engaging black voters across the country, about 14.5 million black voters between now and November, but a heavy emphasis focused on black men when it comes to mis and disinformation. I know our time is short, so I'm gonna move it on.
Yeah, no, that's good, that's good. And yeah, because we want to drill down on what people can do when they get home. My brothers, please.
Well, good morning, Black Caucus. My name is Dominic Calhoun, and my previous black job was serving as the national head of the National Bar Association, representing all black lawyers, black judges, black professionals in this country. So because I know that we're going to engage in this conversation, I'm going to hold off, but let's be clear. Black women have served as the backbone of this country for a very long time. Black men have walked around with their heads bloodied but unbowed. And the problem is, as we just recognized here a few moments ago, when we stand shoulder to shoulder, arm to arm, locked together, we can do amazing things. And so what I know, it's already been mentioned, the information, the misinformation that's been given to black men is the problem. I was in the barbershop, and there was a conversation about what she did, what our vice president did when she was the DA, and how she locked up a whole bunch of black men and gave them all these felonies. This narrative is out there. We have to be the ones to make sure that we correct it. We have to be the ones to make sure that we are setting the record straight for our black men and for this country. And so I stand here today as a black lawyer, making sure that we protect the right to vote and mobilize our people. That's why I'm here. Thank you for allowing me to join you.
All right, we're going to get into it. Brother
Thank you. My name is Wendell Pierce. I'm an actor. But today I'm here as a citizen, more importantly, a black man.
Yeah.
And I've experienced the past 2 days, like all of you, filled with joy, filled with the hope, filled with the excitement. and I don't want to be contrary, but all I can think about is all of those black men and women who on a hot summer night alone stared into the barrel of a gun or looked at the noose around a tree limb in the moment of their death, saying, I hope my death will not be in vain.
Yeah.
There's blood on that ballot box.
Yeah.
There's blood on that ballot box. I'm from Louisiana. I think of the Mechanics Institution, where 38 people, black people, were killed because they gathered, like us, in a convention hall to discuss their next political ventures. I think of the men and women and the black families of Thibodaux, Louisiana, who were massacred because a labor union came together and said, black and white, we will join forces. Tens of thousands of people to put together a labor union for sugarcane workers. And the result was white militias going into the black community and killing hundreds. I think of the Colfax massacre, also in Louisiana, where we won the election and white troops gathered with cannons and guns and attacked the seat of government in that small town of Colfax. Sounds familiar? January 6th? And killed hundreds. There's blood on that ballot box. So while we leave here with joy and moved, remember those whose voices were silenced, not just generations ago, today, and we have to give them the voice and platform and exercise our right of self-determination and elect Kamala Harris the next president of the United States.
All right, yeah.
Good morning, Democrats. My name is Travis Nelson, state representative from Portland, Oregon. My district is much of north and northeast Portland, and I am the first openly LGBTQ plus black person to ever serve in our legislature. And I'm also the only black man serving in our House of Representatives, one of two black people. For those of you who don't know, Oregon came into the Union in 1859, neither a slave state or a free state, but as a black exclusion state. It's only been about 100 years since black people have been allowed to live freely in Oregon. So needless to say, much of my work involves making Oregon a state where all are welcome and are able to thrive. When I hear black men saying they're thinking about voting for Trump, the thing I have come to point out is, as black people, all of our rights that we have in this country were codified by the courts and by the Supreme Court. And in Donald Trump, we have a president who appointed 3 Supreme Court justices who have proven themselves to be anti-black, who have assaulted voting rights, who have dismantled affirmative action, and who have an all lives matter mentality when it comes to the law. Whereas in Joe Biden, we have a man who appointed the first black woman to the Supreme Court. Only the 3rd black Supreme Court justice in the history of our country. And Ketanji Brown Jackson has been an advocate for civil rights, and she has been a stalwart for equality. So when you're having those conversations, remind people that if it weren't for the Supreme Court, we wouldn't have had Brown versus the Board of Education. We wouldn't have had Loving versus Virginia. So I know I'm limited to 2 minutes, so I'm gonna pass the mic, but it's wonderful to see you all here. And like Michelle Obama said last night, when we leave here, it's important that we all go and do something.
All right. I think it would be a worthwhile exercise to do a couple things. There are some myths that are perpetrated about Madam Vice President. One, I want to address some of those. And then two, specifically, Dominic, we want people to leave here with some tools to go and organize in their local areas and engage black men. And we'll close out on that. But and y'all might want to write some of this down. So let's deal with some of these myths. I'm going to throw out a myth. Any one of you who wants to answer it can address it, because this is what we're met with when we engage black men. And Brother Pierce is probably directed at you. He gave us that history. Now we know that there's a holistic assault on us by white supremacy, in the sense they're even trying to control. Moms for Liberty doesn't want us to know our history. And we are deliberately kept from knowing the history that Wendell Pierce just shared. And then the algorithms on social media prevent that history from getting the views, right? So, Brother Pierce, you said all that to me. I'm a young brother, and I've encountered this. Man, that don't mean nothing to me. That's in the past. All that history don't mean nothing to me. Trump gave me a stimmy. So, I mean, this is real talk, because this is what you're going to get met with. And I'm going to tell y'all, let me just be real with you. We talking about black men. I was in the post office the other day, and a sister under 30 told me she wasn't going to vote for Kamala because, and I don't mean to be offensive to anybody, said because she said, this was on social media, because she slept her way to the top. Now, I'm moderating this, and I'm a communicator in media for a living. Broderick, I froze. Yeah. I was in such shock to hear that from a young woman. I wasn't prepared to respond, y'all. And I said, I got to go get myself together, because that's not the last time I'm going to hit. I literally froze, and the people in line froze. We were like, but we couldn't, so we going to get hit with that. So, man, all that history you share, man, that's in the past. I don't know nothing about that. Listen, Trump gave me my stimmy.
First thing I would say, just the take home for everyone, there was a film called The Barber of Little Rock. It's 30 minutes long. It was an Oscar nomination, and it's a brother who's a barber in Little Rock who just started helping folks out with a little change, a little money here and there, taking the conversation with barbershop and helping brothers with information, helping them get on their feet. He became known as someone who can help you out, and this micro economy has grown to the fact that he is now bringing to Little Rock in the black community the first CDFI, the first black bank in his community. Now, that's a film that you should get and share with them immediately. And in that, you see black men engage and deal with their trauma in the barbershop. He has two brothers stand up and just face each other, and he said, look in his eyes and don't look away. And both of them just broke down. They just couldn't look at each other because of all the trauma and pain that they've gone through. That is just, as an actor, it's important that we change hearts and minds, and that's effective emotionally. But when it comes to the misinformation, I'm doing a show right now, Jack Ryan. I play the CIA Deputy Director, James Greer. But in that, I have met real CIA officers, African American, who consult with me on a daily basis. Most of the stuff you see on social media is coming from foreign hostile actors.
That's right.
It is from Russia. It is from China. AI that's happening now that is perpetuating that myth and that mythology. The first thing you have to say is understand that everything you saw there was made up. You should not get the answer to that person. You should not get your information from the internet. If you do, go to KamalaHarris.com or whatever the specific is. And then also the distribution the campaign is giving us with the laundry list of contributions that the administration has done for black folks. $2 billion to the black farmers just recently, right? Biden-Harris, $15 billion to HBCUs. That's far outweighs any stimulus check you got from the Orange Man, right? And then if their response is, well, I don't go to college, well, that's cool, because we have community benefit, community development block grants. They go all the way back to the 90s. That's what the CDFI, Community Development Financial Institution, comes back. That's how I rebuilt my neighborhood in Pontchartrain Park in New Orleans post-Katrina. Right? And the key is, well, people go, oh, that's all above my head. Say, well, here's the deal. You have a right to complain because you have a right to exercise your right of self-determination. But as I told my community, you have to pay for that right. We're bringing a solution to the table. Now, I've given you some that hasn't moved you. Well, you give me some that I might be able to take to the administration or to the campaign, and they're going to put that into a program for you. So challenge me as I challenge you. That's how I think I would approach someone.
Yeah, like what you want. What do you want from the thing? Very good. Give Brother Wendell Pierce a round of applause. So, we, as I said, black men support black women. The black women just told me after extending the time is now contracted immediately. Support black women. So we have just a couple more minutes left, unfortunately. Let me do this, because I wanted to go through some of these points. The STEMI, Kamala Harris, is she in fact black? That's out there. She did not lock up thousands of black men as opposed to what's out there. So, folks, go to, how many of you are on Instagram? Raise your hand. Go to our sister's Instagram page, Jamel Hill, and scroll down. She's got a post up there, things you need to know before you vote, and she refutes each one of those points. All right, so check that out in the interest of time. We got to go. So let me do this. Dominic Whitehead, specifically, give everyone here the list of assignments, the things they need to start lining up, so when they go home, they can go and engage black men and try to reverse. I'm sorry this is tight, y'all. Try to reverse this, talk, engage, tell them what they need to know, be patient. We can't get mad at the young people.
Reverend, I'm sorry.
We can't get impatient.
I don't mean to intrude, but the men on this panel far exceed me in their expertise. So if we could allow each man to say one statement before we leave, because I think I've monopolized the time.
See, I thank you, brother, because you Wendell Pierce when I asked for that. You shut me down. Y'all see? Y'all see how that works? You know, I've been in the movie. I was in one movie. And you see that? Starting at the end with Brother Travis. Refute, how do you engage young black men quickly when they come back with the piece? And then, Dominic, I still need you to do that assignment, but go ahead.
Look, I think just correcting misinformation and pointing out the negatives on Trump. And again, like I was saying, with the courts, how he's appointed Supreme Court justices who have not looked out for us, how he has not appointed black justices to the bench, how he has not looked out for the interests of black communities across the country. And I could go on, but I'm going to be concise because I know we're tight on time.
Dominic Calhoun.
Everything in this country changes from one of two ways, either the ballot box or the courtroom. There's no other way. You want justice, file a lawsuit. You want change, vote. It just is how it works. Every time I go to get my hair cut, my barber and everybody around, they walk, as soon as I walk in the door, they look at me and they go, all right, it's time. And there's one barber that sits there, and every time I walk in, he started asking me questions. Why is the criminal justice system this way? Why are you voting Democrat? Why are you doing this? And you know what? I sit there the whole time for an hour. I sit there and I answer every question that they lodge at me. When the misinformation happens, you have to be the one to correct them. You have to be the one to stand there and be willing to give them the information they need so they can make informed decisions about what to do when the election comes. So remember this. If it doesn't happen in the courtroom, it happens at the ballot box. That's how you demand justice. That's how you get change.
Dominic, hold on, I'm going to have you close this out. Mark, Mayor.
I would just add to that, you have to take on that fight every time. You talked about being in the barbershop. You have to stay in that barbershop and take on that fight, because you're going to be hit with all kinds of things that It's clear that people have been given misinformation about, and you are the leader. You are the person who has more information in a lot of cases about others. And so you're required to act on that. You're required to respond. I will say this and I'm going to stop. My father was in the state legislature for 28 years. He's the one that gave me the base and made it possible for me to run for public office. But he would say to me every day that I was elected and beyond, give him hell out there, and he meant it.
All right. Brother Johnson.
So, yes, there's an awful lot of disinformation on the internet, and we know people who use the internet to spread disinformation, but the solution is not to get off the internet and get away from it. The solution is for us to use the internet to spread truth and to point people in the direction of what the true record is.
All right, all right. And lastly, just to close out, and Brother Pierce, I need you to hang with me so that everywhere I go when I need to get the right answer, so any question from the sister, you can, matter of fact, someplace I need to go after this, I need to take you with me. Brother Whitehead, assignments. Y'all get ready now. This is what we're going to do when we get back home, all right?
I make it quick, simple, and easy. I ask everyone to take their cell phones out right now. Text the word volunteer to 20707. Again, the word volunteer to 20707. As I said earlier, NAACP is nonpartisan, but we are not blind. The way that we know how we engage with voters is relational organizing. Everyone in this room is considered a trusted messenger. You can volunteer with the NAACP and sign up. The second thing what we will do, I will get with Madam Chair. We are releasing our Black research in the next week and a half following the DNC, NAACP, and we will make sure that we get this research and have a briefing with the Black Caucus. And anybody else that need this research and information, we'll have toolkits ready to go on our main website at naacp.org/vote. Again, naacp.org/vote. All of our toolkits and information will be on the site. But again, text the word volunteer to 20707. We need everybody in this room to be all in with us to turn out Black voters and make sure we push back on mis and disinformation, particularly the Black men.
Let's thank Travis Nelson. Let's thank Wendell Pierce, my newly hired personal translator in speaking to the Black woman, Dominique Calhoun, National Bar, Dominic Whitehead, NAACP, former Mayor Mark Mallory of from Cincinnati, and Broderick Johnson of Comcast. God bless you all. Yes, she can. Yes, she can.
Yes, she will.
Yes, she can.
Yes, she will.
Yes, she can.
Yes, she will.
All right, thank you all.
Mr. Press?
Oh, yeah, photo. Come on.
Yep. Oh, okay. All right. We're doing that, huh?
Yeah, all right.
Let's hear it again for Virgie Rollins, who gave me permission to go longer first, and then DeWanna took it away, but we all together now. Thank you. That's what happened. Everybody good?
Everybody
Hold on, one more. Come on, Keith. Why don't we just getting up here? Oh, one more. All right, good.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Virgie, thank you.
Thank you. I'm glad you got here.
What's going on, man?
Okay,
I'll be there.
just, you got my information.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll do that absolutely. I'll be there in 2 weeks.
Okay.
3 weeks. I'll let you know.
All right, if you do, because I do these rounds.
Thank you.
I
Yeah, sure.
Round,
Okay.
love to.
all right, okay.
October would be perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Virgin, they said, saying you got to start, Virgin.
Oh, thank you.
She's saying you got to start.
Thank you.
Because this time is tight.
Thank you. All right, you guys got to take your seats. We got one more panel. We got another panel. This is gonna be awesome, y'all. We got some women coming on that are very powerful. You guys got to take your seats. Don't you go lose out. We got one more. Come on, take your seats. Get your good seat because we got one more panel coming. You ain't gonna want to miss it. And then while they come up, Ashanti, we got Dr. Melanie Campbell, who's a head of the Black Women's Roundtable. Come on, Dr. Campbell. And my child, Ashanti Golar, who's the head of Emerge. Come on, welcome the next panel. Hey, girlfriend, you look at my kid. You just scare me every time. Yeah. Okay, let me get going. Take some of this stuff on.
How's everybody? How's everybody doing? First and foremost, can we give our sister Virgie a round of love and applause? Thank you. I'm Melanie Campbell. I'm president and CEO of the National Coalition on Black Civic Participation, national convener of the Black Women's Roundtable. I'm here in my personal capacity right now, so I can say what I want to. Is that all right? Sisters, are you in the house? Stand up, my sisters. Are y'all ready? I want you to repeat after me. Say, power of the ballot. Power of the sister vote. Power of the black vote. Power of the brother vote. We are going to do this thing, y'all. Sit down. I'm sorry. I just want us to wake up. It's been a great, great day. I'm just so honored to be here at the Black Caucus with all of you all. And brothers, where are your brothers at? Is the brothers in the house? Stand up, brothers. We together. Stand up, my brothers. Yes. So let's say it with me. Power of the brother vote. Power of the black vote. Power of the sister vote. Power to everybody vote. So now I want the sisters and the brothers, get up, stand up together. Y'all ready? Y'all ready? All right now. They say, power of the black vote. We got the power. We're going to use it. We're going to show up. We're going to show out. And say, yes, we can. Yes, we will. Yes, she will. Go all the way to the White House. And we're going to have the first black, South Asian, Jamaican sister, woman, all that as our president of the United States of America, because we're not going back. Just say it. We're not going back. We built this country. We built this country. We are not going to be erased. We got the power, y'all. We got everything we need. But I'm going to say this to you. Don't think about no inauguration. Don't call nobody. Don't text nobody about no hotel rooms. I got about 1,500 people calling me. All that's going to happen. And because you all are leaders in your states, I'm sure y'all getting them text messages already. I'm telling all my friends, all my folks, look, we got time for that, but we got to get across the finish line. And we got to give our sister the tools she needs. That means, say, we're going to win the Senate. We're going to win the House. And we're going to win the White House. Thank you. Peace and power.
I love my sister Melanie. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ashanti Golar. I am the president of Emerge, the nation's largest network of Democratic women elected officials and candidates who are my Emerge alums that are in the room. Really excited to be here. I am the first Black woman to lead this organization. I have to thank Mama Virgie. I have worked for her ever since I basically started working at the DNC in 2008. She's the best. She's my fairy godmother, and she really supported me moving into this role. How many of you have been in the women's restrooms? Have you seen those decals on the mirrors? We did that. Emerge did that. Because we wanted you all to know that leadership does look good on you, that you are the future leaders of this country. Our organization actually came out of Vice President Harris's very first race for DA. Our co-founders were friends with her, they looked around, and they wanted more women like Kamala to run for office. So this is a full circle moment for us, and to be here and make sure that we are doing that recruitment and training to get more women, especially Black women, running for office. At Emerge, we center the new American majority. That includes Black women. Black women, we're the base of the Democratic Party. We don't have to just be voters. We can be elected officials. We have our Seated Together program, which focuses on Black women elected officials who want to run for higher office. Joanna McClinton, the first woman speaker of the Pennsylvania State House. London Lamar, the youngest woman in the Tennessee State Senate. We have Congresswoman Amelia Sykes. They are all Seated Together alums. And we also do our judicial work, Gavel In, training more women to run for judicial positions. We have 109 Emerge alums that are judges. The majority of them are Black women. This is what we wake up and do every day, knowing that if we want to change the face of politics, we need more women, especially Black women in office. You can visit us for the rest of the convention. We have a booth in Dimpalooza, and we're also doing live talks. They started today, they'll end tomorrow, and our final conversation will be with the iconic Anita Hill, so that's something that you don't want to miss. Thank you all so much. You can visit us at emergeamerica.org every single day. Bye.
Good afternoon. How's everybody doing? Awesome. Because Ms. Virgie is so amazing, she's able to get wonderful, wonderful different voices from different communities to represent us. We have a great panel that's going to be coming and speaking to you today. And we are going to start with Joteka Edie, who is the founder of Win with Black Women.
Well, hello, DNC Black Caucus. Are there any winning with Black women in here tonight? Are there any of you that was part of the 44,000 Black women that have inspired the nation? It is an honor to be with each and every one of you today. Let me tell you one thing. This country right now, if they did not know how to win with Black women, I promise you they know what it means to win with Black women. Let me hear you say win with Black women. Yes, she can. And let me say right here, I know everybody in this room knows how to say Kamala Harris. And when they can't get it right, we're going to remind them they could just simply say Vice President Harris. It is such a time for our nation, and it is an honor to stand here in this moment. Everyone has been talking about the historic call that took place on July 21st, but I am here to remind people that long before that call, Black women have been toiling and doing the work. Had it not been for Black women who have been a part of the DNC Black Caucus, the Shirley Chisholms of the world, my soror, I know I got on pink, baby, but my heart and soul is red. Fannie Lou Hamer, Dr. Hazel Lynn Dukes. I can call the role of Black women who have consistently been the backbone of this party. Black women who consistently do the work. Black women who will meet for years and years when nobody is looking, and so when the time is right, all we have to do is shift the agenda and help inspire a nation. Black women and Black people have always been the bedrock of this party. Now, I am sitting here and I saw my good Madam President here in the room. And yesterday we were on stage for Native Land Pride, and she talked about the great Shirley Chisholm. And Shirley Chisholm reminded us that if they don't give you a seat at the table, then we should bring a folding chair. But I'm here to say to you all today that I dare say that right now in America that black women and black people in this country, yes, there was always a table, and they often would not give us a seat, and we had to bring our folding chairs. But I dare say right now in this moment, black folks are building the table, and we are building a table in which everyone has a seat at the table. Now, I know that in the next 76 days, I believe, we have work to do. Now, I know Zoom has been good to us. Technology, the conversation we're going to have, has been very good to us. It's allowed us to connect. But we're not going to Zoom our way to a victory in this election. We got to get in the streets and meet people where they are. We got to go to the places of worship, the places of party. We got to knock on doors. We got to turn out voters. Because I can tell you, I'm an organizer trained by the NAACP. And what it's going to take is boots on the ground, hands on doors, and talking to people every single day in order to win this election. Someone said to me in an interview, what happens if we don't win? I simply looked back and said, that is not even a conversation. That's not a choice for us. We understand that there is a very clear line between Vice President Kamala Harris and he who should not be named. We know that they are trying to roll back every single right that this caucus has fought for this country, and we will not go back. It is my honor to be here, and the last thing that I will say to y'all, keep fighting. Keep going. Keep fighting. Let me hear you say, win with black women, win with black men, win with black people. Yes, she can. Yes, she can. Yes, she can. Y'all, let's do this in 2024, y'all. Let's go. Thank you very much.
All right. So we have an amazing panel up here to talk about innovation and the future economic advancements in technology. I want to start with Brandon Thompson, the Vice President of Diversity at NASCAR. Could you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do and the changing diversity in your specific fields and what results you're seeing?
Sure. So, again, my name is Brandon Thompson, Vice President of Diversity and Inclusion at NASCAR. Great to be here with you all today and really just kind of talk about some of the ways that we're pushing technology forward, equity, even working with Darrell on a couple of projects. But the one thing that I remind people of is that despite the reputation that NASCAR has earned, frankly, in some respects, but the perception over the years as well, sort of mixed with that because of that history, NASCAR has really been on this journey in terms of diversity, equity, inclusion, really a bit before any other professional sports were on the path. So in 2001, we established a NASCAR Diversity Internship Program, of which I am a product of, which focuses on bringing black college students from campuses into the NASCAR environment in order to give them hands-on training in a variety of fields, from marketing, engineering, et cetera. We have now put close to 600 students through that program. We're also really excited about a couple of other programs, really in that same vein, the NASCAR Campus Lab program, which currently sits at Bethune-Cookman University, soon to expand to another university in North Carolina, as well as an engineering fellowship program, which focuses on putting black college students and master's level candidates on path to become crew chiefs and race day engineers, which across other sports you would commonly hear those referred to as head coaches and assistant head coaches. So we're excited about those types of programs. Also on the track, obviously with the success of Bubba Wallace and others, one of the things I'm most excited about relative to that program, it's aside from the length of time that it has been around also for 20 plus years, is the fact that we now have layers. So before, and I think again, Darrell and maybe some other folks in the room, before it was just Bubba, and we were kind of all rallying behind him as well we should. But now, because of his existence, who stands obviously on the heels and on the shoulders of someone like Wendell Scott or Elias Bowie, we are now to the point where there's a LeVar Scott, and now to the point where behind LeVar there's a driver named Nathan, and behind the driver named Nathan there's a driver named Laquan. And so we continue to, and not to mention Raja Caruth, who obviously got his first win this year as well, a student at Winston-Salem State University. So lots of fun and exciting things happening on and off the track. And I would say to close, relative to specifically to technology, there are a ton of opportunities across the sport, not only within engineering, but data analytics, all types of things that are going into CAD drawings and remote race operations that we have. We're utilizing a ton of technology. So we're excited about the future of NASCAR and excited to share this panel with you all today.
Thank you. I'd like to now move to Claridith, who is the founder of ISCI. Could you talk a little bit about trends, paths, resources we should be considering right now, and what demands should we be making of national and local leaders to advance diversity and inclusion?
Absolutely. But first, what I would like to say is good afternoon, everyone. Let's do a little bit better. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
All right, you're still with me? Thank you. My name is Claridith Landry. Not only am I the proud founder of Inclusive Security Collective Initiative, ISCI, where access is granted, I am also a proud veteran. I'm part of a long lineage, as many of us in this room are, of service members, of Black and brown men and women who have given their lives for this country, even when this country didn't recognize us. So when we talk about the different industries that are available to us for economic prosperity, we really need to be looking at specific markets. And for so long, we've been told that all we can do in the defense space is serve. And yes, I serve proudly, but did you know that the defense industrial complex is a $1 trillion industry? Not with an M, not with a B, trillion, TR. We, as a community, see less than 0.07% of those funds across our academic institutions, across our businesses, across any event or activation, across research and development, across professional pathways that could actually get our future, which are our children, into high demand and in-demand STEM professions. So what I'm actually going to ask you all today, when you ask me what are the industries, what can we do? Well, if you remember anything from what I share for you today, or share with you today, it's that we all should be demanding a new Tuskegee Agreement, okay? This is based off the Tuskegee Miracle that was penned between Booker T. Washington and President Roosevelt, which stood up to Tuskegee Airmen, which stood up to Tuskegee Airfield, where Blacks could serve, go to school, go to pilot training, so that they could serve in World War II, be seen as the heroes they were, come back and actually reap the benefits of their service, which they never got to see come to fruition. But now that we know better, we should be asking for more. So Research Center, that was done under the Biden-Harris administration, okay? This was done in 2022 under the first Black Secretary of Defense that we have, Secretary Lloyd Austin, okay? Let's give that up. The first ever Black Secretary of Defense we've ever had, Secretary Lloyd Austin, who went to West Point. My father is also a West Point grad, okay? So we have a long lineage, again, of service. But those 9 schools are part of the first ever HBCU ARC, which is the abbreviation that I just shared with you, have to share $90 million over 5 years. Now, yes, it's progress because we've never had it before, but we should be asking for more. We should be asking for what?
More.
We should also be asking for that new Tuskegee Agreement, okay? That means more money into our academic infrastructure. That means more money into our Black small-owned businesses so they too can be seen as defense contracting companies with access to that $1 trillion industry and that revenue that is constantly going to predominantly white businesses and defense contracting companies. By the way, there's an annual list every single year of 200 defense contracting companies. Not a single one is Black-owned. What are we going to do to change that? We're going to ask for a new Tuskegee Agreement. Also, not a single HBCU is what's called R1 status, meaning that they can actually do the research that brings more money into the institutions, that create more career paths for our Black professionals who want to be in STEM, who want to be like me, who is an intelligence officer serving in Baghdad, Iraq, serving under Secretary Austin, making sure that the technologies that went to the field were protected before they even went out, even being used for commercial use. So these are incredible spaces that we are not informed about, and sometimes intentionally, but we deserve to know about, because we want a what? A new Tuskegee Agreement. This isn't just about our service. We've always served. This is about what we earned and what we deserve in return.
Thank you. That was very interesting. Next,
My last name is Landry, Claridith Landry, Landry.
All right. Next, we have Daryl Booker, who is the Tech Diversity Lead for Microsoft. You want to introduce yourself and then talk to us a little bit about some trends that you're seeing as well?
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. My name is Daryl Booker. I'm a racial equity tech lead at Microsoft. I also sit on the Congressional Black Caucus's Racial Equity Task Force. But my work at Microsoft is rooted in how we use technology and data to address racial injustices. I've been leading a program since 2020. In a nutshell, bringing all things tech innovation, skilling, career awareness, and workforce development to the Black community. But in what we hope to be a really long-term and sustainable way. Yes, we're a major corporation, and some may feel we can hand every Black person a stimulus type of check, but what does that do? Instead, we need to put the power behind the back of those organizations that's doing the work every day, regardless of whatever a headline is, and that's our nonprofits, our community-based organizations, and our HBCUs. But the issue is they don't have the tools and resources to do the work that they need. And one of the things that they really lack is technology. When we think about how funding is provided to these organizations, Black-led organizations receive unrestricted funds at a 76% smaller rate than their white counterparts. What that means is they're not getting the funding to invest in technology, whether that's a laptop, whether that's people, whatever it is that can really power their work. And nowadays, technology is the greatest equalizer to all disparities. If you can utilize technology to the fullest, you can do more with less, you can do it faster, and you can reach more. So my work is really rooted across the country, working with these organizations, leveling their playing field in technology, giving them the tools and things that they need to do whatever their mission is, but do it really successfully. But also, we're gaining partners at a really hyper-local level. My team is working with over 3,000 nonprofits across 1,800 communities across this country, and these are, these small organizations. And through them, we now gain partners to bring all of that skilling, career, and workforce development directly into the hands of our young people, adults, and seniors who need it, because we now gain them as partners. And, really looking at how technology is powering everything, especially when we think of career pathways. How can we tell a young person right now that they can't be a successful content creator when they see it, when they open their phone? Let's give them the tools that they need and the education to do it. Brandon talked about, NASCAR, working with them on just exposing our young people to motorsports, and have no idea how big that industry is, how big that sport is, and all the career pathways from vehicle design all the way to post-race analytics. And, speaking of our HBCUs, working with government agencies such as the National Security Agency to bring mentors from their side as well as mentors from our side to these HBCUs to try to get them to R1, at least let's try to get them to R2. But these are the things that, we're doing, and just trying to make sure that we don't get left behind. The latest thing right now is AI, and I personally, my 20-something years in tech, have not seen a piece of technology that's growing to this type of adoption as fast as AI, and at what I call an equitable level that everybody can use it. But just like nowadays, you don't see on job descriptions that you need to use Word or Excel. That's a given, right, for an entry-level role. This will be what we will be seeing in terms of being able to use AI. So whatever we can do to make sure that our young people are gaining these valuable skills as soon as possible, but even making sure that our businesses and our entrepreneurs and our startups are using technology to the fullest.
Thank you. That was awesome. So as we close, and was this not some really good information? I urge all of you to go out and follow them on their social media. because we want to make sure that we're keeping current and learning all these amazing things. So as we close, I would definitely like to go to each of you and give you 2 minutes and tell the audience 3 things that they could do in this election cycle that will help DEI from your perspective.
I'll start. So 3 things.
2 minutes.
3 things in 2 minutes. I think I can handle that. I think number one, we've talked about it a lot. Vote. I think that's the first thing that we have. We've talked about the voice or our vote being our voice. So that's the first thing that I would encourage. The next thing I would do is to say to support financially. I think we talked about these. Someone mentioned that earlier today. So whether it's at a macro level, right, relative to the election and donating there, or supporting other black people in these endeavors. We've talked a lot about that, but I think now, particularly coming out of 2020, we've seen an expansion of black women-owned businesses and just black-owned businesses and being able to find them more readily. But I think being able to support really in all the ways. So specific to NASCAR, whether that's supporting some of the drivers that we mentioned coming out, and being able to see the things that are happening from a pit crew level, from a college student engagement level. So I would say the financial support, and then finally I would say, which is really in our DNA, is the stick-to-itness, right? Just to be able to keep going. The endurance that we have despite a lot of the challenges, and I think those are the 3 things that we have to do in order to continue to move forward. And I'll sneak a 4th one in there, I guess, that kind of ties all of those together, is that really for us to understand and push our corporations and those people that we work for to understand that we as black people are a significant part of the GDP of the country and the economic stability of the country. And so in order for that to be maintained and understanding the trajectory of where the demographics are going in the country, we cannot sit on the sidelines, right, and expect for businesses to continue to be commercially profitable. And so I think we need to stand in that in our power. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll piggyback off of one of the things Brandon said just about, supporting businesses. And I don't have the exact number, but I think it's something along the lines of, money stays within the black community no more than 6 hours. And that essentially comes from there's not enough, fellow entrepreneurs, business owners, so that money can stay within the community as it does, other races and ethnicities. The other thing is, conversations at home. And I said it to say, not all the time about the good stuff that's happening, that's the bad stuff. And I know we as people, we're fighters, we struggle, we do a lot, but a lot of times we hide a lot from our kids. And at the end of the day, have those conversations with your kids so that when they get older, they're not facing the same things. They can see that there's no money and something struggling within the house. Sit down at that moment and show them about budgeting and financing so they're not figuring things out on their own just because we're too prideful to be able to share that within our home. And then also, when we think of corporations, and I know I work at one, so I'm speaking, to myself. For me, there was whether it was corporations, foundations, government, you name it, a lot of money came out of nowhere in 2020. And in my opinion, only so much has changed, barely anything. And does that erase 400 years of oppression? I think we all say no. And it really takes you all's voice, just like it did in 2020, for all these things to come about. Y'all have to keep using y'all voice and holding those accountable who have those resources to be able to help.
Thank you.
Okay, so I have a couple of asks. First, I'd like everyone to see if their congressman or woman or senator sits on the HASC or the Appropriations Committee, because there's something called the National Defense Authorization Act, which every year you're able to change language, and there's a specific line 4144, that allows you and to encourage your congresswoman, congressman that may sit on the HASC, the appropriations, to increase the dollar amount that's going to our HBCUs for STEM-based research and development and technology. With that increase, that means they have more infrastructure at our HBCUs. That means our talent can get their undergrad and graduate degree in STEM at the same school and you do not have to transfer to a PWI to be successful. That means more credit to our HBCUs. That means more funding to our HBCUs. That means more infrastructure and capability and defense contracts, again, worth $1 trillion, okay? So that's the first ask I would have of you. That NDAA and that legislative influence is tantamount to sustainable change and investment in our communities. Secondly, the UARC that I mentioned before, where there's 9 HBCUs sharing $90 million across 5 years, at the epicenter of those 9 schools is VP Harris's alma mater, Howard University. They are the #1 school on track to reach R1 status. I would love to see that become a reality under her presidency. Okay? Can we get a round of applause for that? Let's continue that momentum. Thirdly, Black businesses deserve to be involved in the Mentor Protege program as part of the Defense Industrial Complex. That's when an established, predominantly white or just majority defense contracting company invests and trains and teaches a Black or marginalized community-owned business or underrepresented owned business how to be a part of the acquisition cycle. You know when solicitations are dropped. You know how much it's for. They're responsible for making sure you're successful because then it makes them look successful. We're not involved in that program at scale. And lastly, this is more about the heart here. This is more about what we deserve as a community. Ultimately, the Defense Industrial Complex and our part in it is about the country's readiness, and it's about maintaining strategic competitive edge so that we are not taken advantage of by our adversaries. We as a community are tantamount to that success. We cannot be ready as a country. We cannot be secure as a nation without Black people at the table. So what we want is a new Tuskegee Agreement. Can I get it one more time?
Tuskegee Agreement.
Thank you so much.
Let's give a round of applause for this amazing panel. Thank you so much.
Okay, now, did y'all enjoy them young folk? Aren't they good? You see the work that they're doing? You would not know.
Just 1 second. If you all will just give us a moment for a personal privilege. My name is Dewana Thompson, and I have the honor of serving alongside Ms. Virgie Rollins. I worked for Ms. Virgie when I was the National African American Vote Director for the Democratic Party, and with me are 2 additional powerhouse women who've also worked with Ms. Virgie in national leadership roles at the DNC over the last 10 years. And we thought that it would be remiss if we did not take a moment to make sure that we give her her flowers in this incredible Year of the Woman. Please stand to your feet with us and honor this woman who has fought for us, who has put her heart on the line for us, who has demanded excellence on behalf of our people, who is still fighting every single day, even today, to make sure that we have the things that we need. It's because of people like Ms. Virgie that our stories exist. Each one of us have held CEO level roles. Each one of us are currently leading national programs. Each one of us represent about 1,000 other women who are seated in high places because of how high this lady has elevated us on her shoulders. And though the crowd has dwindled, her power has not. And we wanted to ensure that while the cameras are still here, and you're still here, that we bear witness to the greatness that is Ms. Virgie M. Rollins.
That's too much.
How do you follow a Dewana Thompson? Y'all give it up for Dewana. Dewana has, she and I have been friends over a decade now, and we call each other twin because we act so much alike that people now start to think that we're twins for real. But when I tell you about the power of sisterhood, I don't care if you're in a sorority or not. If you have a band of women who you can stand with, you can cry with, you can pray with, you can work with, the one you could take a couple of lashings with. Miss Virgie, what you have done, not just for us, but for everyone who's come before us, the women that you have on your cabinet, I look at Grace and Allison and Congresswoman Christensen, you make sure that one, we don't take no stuff, but most importantly, that we feel confident in who we are and what you have poured into us. You have been the mother for so many. I know Venus and your other nieces are out here in the audience and your family. You have extended us grace in ways that we don't know. And so we want to say thank you from the bottom of our hearts for being the incredible force, the fierce nature that you are. Ms. Virgie, we stand so humbly on your shoulders. And we are so grateful for everything you do for us. Have you taught us to stand 10 toes down on business for Black folk, right? You ensure we all understood what our Black jobs and what our Black obligations are to our people. So thank you for being a mentor, a mother, a friend, for being our everything, Ms. Virgie. You are the Black Caucus. You are the conscience of this country. So thank you for that. People don't know what you've done. When you talk about the states and what it takes to do this work, she talked about her regional caucuses. We all have buried the bearers of those regional caucuses, but it's important because it pours in everyday people. Without her, it would be no Black women for Kamala, right? There would be no win with Black women. There would be no women of the. This is Virgie Rollins, and you have to know that. I love you, Ms. Virgie.
This is the baby of the bunch, y'all. This is the baby.
Ooh, good afternoon. I don't know how I can follow Dawana or Wakenya. My name is Ebony Baylor, and I served at the pleasure of Chair Virgie Rollins. What Dawana and Wakenya said, ditto. And I also want to give credit to Wakenya Clanton because I came to the DNC because she opened the door and she told me about the position. She encouraged me to apply and she made the avenue available and advocated for me to be represented at the organization. And she told me about the importance of Ms. Virgie Rollins. She told me about the goal and the role and what we were going to be doing and the importance of our position and the things that we were going to do in the lives that we were going to change. Ms. Virgie accepted me as a political daughter. And through some of the toughest times of my life, even after I left the DNC, I've lost my father, I've lost my aunt, I've lost my uncle, all in the last 6 months. And Ms. Virgie has held me up. She has supported me. She has poured into me. She still loves on me. And she organizes the hell out of this country for Black people. A lot of people don't know about the fights that happen inside of the building. A lot of people don't understand the long hours and the stress and the turmoil that Ms. Virgie goes through and the DNC Black Caucus members go through to represent the Black community for the Democratic Party. So when you see them running around, if they seem tired or frustrated, it is because they have been organizing the hell out of the DNC for our community to make sure that you all have resources to do the work, to make sure that people are turning out in this election. So I just want to thank Ms. Virgie for everything that you have done, all of the sacrifices, all of the phone calls, all of the tough conversations. Because we are who we are because of you, and we love you so much.
Virgie,
Virgie, Virgie, Virgie, Virgie, Virgie, Virgie.
I'm gonna do the ugly cry. Y'all gonna make me do the ugly cry.
You got the last remarks. Marcus said I don't want to come up and say this is enough.
Okay. You know what? These are my children. And I love them so much. They always, at the DNC, I do intimidate a lot of people at the DNC, from top all the way top down. But I always tell them, always have your back because you staff, and if they mess with you, they messing with me. And they know that I'm going to be there for them. I tell them all the time when, like my dad used to tell me all the time, when you walk out of this house and you look in the mirror, that's all white folks see is your this. They don't care how smart you are. They don't care how good looking you are. You can go high up in the land, but you still this. And so I tell them I'm gonna always be here for them. I'm gonna always lift them up because I'm here. Sometimes I always tell them. They were saying, "Ooh, Miss Virgie's, y'all better be nice because she gonna get y'all if y'all ain't." Because but I'm very structured, and I say what you do. Don't worry about what people say. Whatever the issues are, whatever the job is, just do your job. Make sure it's the right thing. Make sure, listen to what they're telling you. And that's what you do. And then all the other stuff, don't shut the noise out. Just do not listen to the noise because that don't matter. You matter. Well, how you feel, what you doing. You got to keep your focus. And that's so important, and it's real important for me because I'm not going to be doing this forever, and I want to make sure that the legacy is out there, and this is it. These are my babies, and I always tell them, and to want to know if when I call on Ebony, they're all here. They're all here. Everywhere I go, they call me, say whatever you need. And people say when they first come, they say, "Oh, you ain't gonna like Miss Virgie. She real tough," But every time they leave, they stay with me everywhere I go. And when you see all of this stuff that has happened, this is the coordinator because she takes care of it. She's been with me the longest. She staffed me anything I need, and they're gonna follow her. They're gonna do what she wants. And this one is just, and my baby over here, I always had to get in her case a little bit, but she here and she does, everyone, and I thank y'all. I love y'all so much.
Angel meeting tonight.
Let me tell you, this is my team, and this is Will. Will, come on up here. My right hand here. Will has been with me. He does everything. Every time I get a new staff person, and they go crazy because they say, what is he doing? I said, you listen to him. If you don't listen to him, you might be on my bad side, okay? And so this is my team. I appreciate you all. This has been one of the most wonderful events. I've had such a good time. I've been doing this for 18 years. My first chair was Howard Dean, and my Federation women are here because I represent the national. Is my president here? Is my national president still here, Barbara Faison? Because I represent the National Federation of Democratic Women I'm a national past president, and my brother over here by another mother, Chuck Bussey, my family. But I represent the National Federation of Democratic Women on the DNC, and that's when they come after me. See, so they can't because they always say, well, she's not elected through the state, and she's not at large, but I represent the Federation, and I want to thank my Federation sisters. I want to thank my family. Venus is my hand. She my daughter that I never had, that I helped raise, and my nieces, Robin. And Lindsay, everybody, and my good friend for 30 years, and my neighbor, Pam. We love her. My kids call her Auntie Pam. And Chuck and Marina, Uncle Chuck. I mean, he's always been by my side. I always tell him, he always said, and I said, I talk about white people a lot, and sometimes I slip up, but he be sitting there, he understands that. I said, who I'm real. And so thank you. Where my board at? And if I couldn't do this without Allison and Grace, and Donna, stand up, Donna, and Travis, and my vice chair over here, Mark Mallory. You guys have been wonderful. Where's Aisha?
Volunteers.
My volunteer, all these, where's Tammy? Where's Tammy Davis? Right, Tammy? You made this come together from us from afar. You were Chicago. Obama loaned her to us. And thank you, Tammy, so much.
And acknowledge Trey from Biden.
And Trey, come up here. Trey Baker, you come up here. This is the director of Black Folks for Harris. This is my buddy and my counterpart. This who I'm gonna be beating up a lot because I got to get the money from him. I got to call him to get the resources. So Trey, you want to say just a word or two?
Yeah, I'll say a word or two.
Come on up here, Michael.
First of all, I'm not the black director for Harris this time. I was the director of black engagement for Joe Biden in 2020. I'm a senior advisor to the campaign now. So y'all don't call me directly on this. I just wanted to come and say one thing. One, thank you to Virgie Rollins. I wanted to add our little piece to it because what Virgie does, and you know, last night, First Lady Michelle Obama mentioned something in particular that resonated with me. She said, you know, don't complain because you didn't get reached out directly to by somebody from the campaign, because we don't have time for that foolishness. Those were her exact words. We don't have time for that foolishness because we're all working and we're all doing our thing. And so I'm coming to you today to say you have been reached out to somebody from the campaign. That's me. And we need you because we don't have time for that foolishness. And so don't come and say, oh, I hadn't heard from Trey, I didn't get an email back, he didn't call me back. Follow Ms. Virgie's example. Ms. Virgie will call me 17 times. And then she gets me and does the work. But I just want you to know what she does to push resources out into the community. She demands that black people have the resources that they deserve for this campaign and to get out and push the vote. And so just know that she's holding our feet to the fire from the campaign side to get those resources out into the streets. And I'll tell you this is off the record. Everybody should be pushing us. Everybody should be pushing the campaign to do more because we deserve more. And if we represent 33% of the vote, the coalition that's gonna push this over the top, we should represent an equal amount of the money that's going out. And that's what Ms. Virgie pushes. And so I just wanted to say thank you for that. The last thing I'll say is make sure everybody takes one of these. In the spirit of not putting up with foolishness, when somebody comes to you with the foolishness of Kamala Harris and Joe Biden haven't done anything for black people, I want you to pull this out because we don't have time for that foolishness. When somebody comes to you and they say Kamala Harris is not black, I want you to pull up her record and show just how black she is because we don't have time for that foolishness. And so I want everybody to take these. If you haven't gotten one, make sure you have it. Put it in your pocket, fold it up, keep it with you at all times because we don't have time for that foolishness. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And one other person, Keith Corbett, my buddy from Rainbow Push. We have served for years with him, and I call him all the time, and we listen to Dr. Haynes on Sunday. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much, and this meeting is adjourned.
Before you guys leave and Ms. Virgie leaves, I just want to show you all what we had made for the first time in the history of the Black Caucus in honor of our chair, Ms. Virgie Rollins, which all of you can get.